Extremist movie debate. And tonight, we're talking 2013's R.I.P.D.
I am Joe.
I'm Ethan, and one of us is gonna love it, one of us is gonna hate it.
Let the coin decide their fate.
I love it.
I hate it. And hey guys, don't open a portal and let a bunch of demons come in to kill us because there's spoilers ahead.
Okay. Ethan, since this movie holds a 13% on Rotten Tomatoes, and since you love this movie, we're going to start with you.
Great.
Richard Corliss from Time Magazine says, for an expensive summer movie, R.I.P.D. looks pretty cheesy. The production design of the Heaven or Limbo sets looks as if they were cobbled together by someone who saw Brazil when he was a kid, applied some of Terry Gilliam's steampunk gadgetry, then tried to blend it with the sterility of a dentist office. So, for the world they've created, why does the set design actually work for the film?
Well, I mean, that
You have 1 minute.
That guy's saying that this movie ripped off some really awesome other movies, and I think that adds to the movie a great deal. I mean, talk about Brazil, some steampunk gadgetry, awesome, rad, I'm in. You talk about sets like Men in Black, awesome. It looks like some sort of Brian Fuller's Wet Dream. It looks awesome. I know that this is not anything to do with Men in Black, but this movie is very similar to Men in Black. Everybody's already made that connection, and I think that that's a good thing because that movie is also excellent. I feel like the sets work well. If anything, I'll understand a criticism against the Deados being cartoonish. However, I think that that's necessary because they have to be some sort of comic relief and a little bit non-threatening in the world. The threat is really Kevin Bacon, who obviously has the big Fisher head in the very end of the movie, so we are already scared of him. But the threat has to be him and the Staff of Jericho, and not so much the army of Deados. The Deados are there to basically get pummeled and thrown around like cartoons, and I get that, and it kind of looks like something from The Mask, and I think that that's a positive thing.
Okay, thank you. Joe, you have 30 seconds to respond.
No. Basically, like, when a movie's like being influenced by better movies, you get something like Doctor Strange, where it's just like, I can see where that movie's coming from, but it's more of an homage, and they're borrowing from it to make something greater, like a mosaic. This movie is just flat out derivative. Like, it's not taking things that they liked, it's taking things that they thought were cool, and they're too lazy to use their own brains to try to make something else. So essentially it's just this cobbled together piece of shit, like, I don't know, shack that they tried to make look cool, but really they were just stapling out posters.
Joe, thank you. That was your 30. Ethan, you have 15 to respond.
I mean, I fundamentally disagree. I think they're taking things that they thought were cool.
A lot of things fundamental.
Joe, please do not interrupt. Ethan.
That's true. I think that's accurate. They take a lot of things that they thought were cool and that are cool, and they put it into this very cool movie.
And they made less cool.
Joe, please do not interrupt.
No, if you take something that's good and you put it into something else that has potential to be good, that good thing with the potential to be good becomes a good thing.
Okay.
And it's just math.
All right, Ethan. Joe, you have a final 15 to respond.
You're saying like, oh, since thing A is cool, thing B must be cool, but it's not. It's just the same thing. It's just overused, unoriginal, boring. I've seen it before. I want to see something new and fresh, and you're not giving me anything new and fresh.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna move on to the next question. Joe, this one is for you. This comes from Ben Sachs of the Chicago Reader. He says, R.I.P.D. spends little time on exposition and doesn't go in for any false pathos. Compared with most recent comic book movies, this is lean, unpretentious filmmaking, and to my taste, a lot more fun for it. So how does the lack of exposition actually hinder the movie by thrusting the audience right into the story? You have 1 minute.
I mean, I have a hard time hearing somebody say that there's no exposition in this movie when we're essentially in Ryan Reynolds' character and we're going into this afterlife where everything is explained to him. Like the girl from Weeds is essentially taking him by the hand, going through it, just being like, this is how this works and this is how this works and you're dead now, but there's a thing called R.I.P.D. and you can do it. But yeah, 5 minutes of straight flat exposition is a lot of exposition, especially for that amount of time. So to even say that there's no exposition in this movie is kind of insulting to the audience who is listening to the exposition as it's happening. And then you get stuck with Jeff Bridges, and essentially as he goes through, he's explaining everything. Like, it's essentially he's just saying everything out loud that he's seeing when none of that needs to be happening. It could be a much more subtle film and a lot more fun and more interesting for that.
Okay, Ethan, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Look, it's called the first act, where you establish the world, you establish the characters. They've got a lot to establish in this movie, and they do it by thrusting him into the middle of it instead of just explaining very casually. They could have spent the whole first act basically in the proctor's office after he died. They don't. First off, they establish in like 2 seconds who the bad guy of this movie is, what his motivation is, very quickly what Ryan Reynolds' motivation is, and then they move on to this is the undead world and you are now a policeman and within it. And then they could have spent the whole time in that office. Instead, they throw him right into the world with a sidekick and they explain everything.
Ethan, that was your 30. Joe, you have 15 to respond.
As you said, they explain everything. So they're walking up, and Jeff Bridges is just like, well, deados smell bad, and they smell like fish, and they like garbage, and let me explain everything else about it. Instead of showing us, he just explains all of it, and that is exposition through dialogue, which is lazy writing.
Okay, Ethan, a final 15 to respond.
They're showing it! As he's saying it, they're walking up to a guy who smells and a molded, decayed door frame.
They explain it.
They're doing it as they're saying it. It wouldn't make sense if we saw a decaying door frame. I guess it would.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're gonna have to move on to the next question. Okay.
Darn.
Ethan, this one is for you. This comes from Jay Olson of cinemixtape.com. He says, sub in the grotesque deados for the aliens of Men in Black and Mary Louise Parker for Rip Torn Zed, and you have yourself the low-rent MIB clone that many expected but no one actually wanted. So can you tell me what sets R.I.P.D. apart from Men in Black and works as its own separate entity? You have 1 minute.
Nothing, and I'm super good with that. Every bit of that is A-okay by me. You guys go make a sequel. Done.
Thank you, Joe. You have 30 seconds to respond.
So Ethan's okay with them just ripping off a much better movie and just making it derivative of that movie along with some other movies, and just essentially, like, this is what's wrong. Ethan's such a lazy movie watcher that he needs to watch something that already exists in a slightly different form so he can actually ingest that.
Accurate.
Because there's no thinking involved with this movie because you're just watching a rehash of Men in Black.
Accurate.
Okay, thank you. Ethan, you have 15 seconds to respond.
I mean, yeah, I'm fine with that. You could say that about me. I don't take that as an insult. You're welcome. Thank you kindly, sir.
Okay, Joe, do you want a final 15?
No, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question then. And Joe, this final question is for you. This comes from Tim Martian of The Mercury. He says, R.I.P.D. is a fun and unpretentious little supernatural comedy that is a great deal more enjoyable than its overwhelmingly negative press would suggest. So when a movie like this has a cult following and, you know, the fans seem to like it, did the director actually do a good job despite the negative press from critics? You have 1 minute.
So I think the cinema score for the audience was only like 30%. So there is no cult following for this movie. People did not like this movie. The critics were just a little bit more privy to that beforehand. And really, when you say unpretentious, that's just code for saying they made a shitty movie. And because I made a shitty movie and it's not good, you can call it unpretentious because there's nothing to rail against. Like, this is just a poorly made movie and they're trying to compliment it by saying it's unpretentious.
Okay, thank you, Ethan. You have 30 seconds to respond.
Look, I'll give you that it ripped off Men in Black and probably stole its intellectual property, but that doesn't make it a bad movie. That just makes it maybe an uninventive movie, but still a super fun movie to watch. And I think people like this movie, not tongue-in-cheek, not ironically. I think people really enjoy this movie, find its humor, it hits with them, and they laugh along with the ride. They don't take anything seriously, just like they don't take life so seriously. Not everything has to be taken in such a stern fashion. Sometimes you can kick back and enjoy something that's really stupid, simple, and just fun.
Okay, that's your 30. Joe, you have 15 to respond.
You can sit back and enjoy something that's just stupid and fun, and it's called movies like Hot Rod, movies that actually do something different and actually, like, they're tongue-in-cheek, like kind of silly, like, let's not worry about life. They actually use that to their advantage, opposed to making a 2-hour movie that is just exposition the entire time.
Joe, thank you. Ethan, you have a final 15 to respond.
Look, like, I like chocolate ice cream. That doesn't mean every time I go to the ice cream store I gotta get a different flavor. Maybe I just want fucking chocolate again. The end.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, chocolate ice cream.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we should talk about how we actually feel about this film. Joe, you can start. You have 30 seconds.
I love this movie. I love this movie so much. And just to get it out there, this was based on a graphic novel.
I know.
As was Men in Black. So as far as like intellectual property, like no, it's not ripping off Men in Black because it was based on a source text.
Yeah, that source text ripped off Men in Black.
You don't know
Which
that.
came out first? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know.
Willing to bet.
I wouldn't.
Okay.
But no, it's a great movie. It's super fun. Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Bridges have great chemistry. The woman from Weeds, Mary something. What's her name?
Mary Louise Parker.
Mary Louise Parker is great in this movie.
She is.
They build up the whole relation, like romantic tension between her and Jeff Bridges the whole time, and that's a nice payoff with the Billy Goat at the end. And on top of that, on top of all the really stupid, hold on, with all this really
Let him go.
with all the really stupid, like kind of shitty parts of this movie, like there's a really nice, like touching core to it, like. Ryan Reynolds loves his wife and she loves him, and it's the whole thing is just kind of like it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside because you are who you are on the inside, and somebody's gonna love you for that, even if you look like an old Asian man.
Okay, Ethan,
It's just such a bundle of cliches. It's like they hit every sort of string that they possibly could pluck with this movie.
And Buzz is in it from Home Alone.
That's true. Like from the very beginning of this movie, I was trying so hard. I fucking hated this movie, by the way. I didn't hate it, but I did not enjoy it. But like from the very beginning, you start off in the locker room, and it's a very bustling locker room, and right away they make a fat joke, and fine, whatever. You understand that this movie has no problem making a fat joke to a fat guy, and then immediately turns to Kevin Bacon whispering in this super crowded locker room, "What'd you do with the gold, you dirty cop?" And they have this long conversation about how they're gonna turn the gold in, how they don't want to go down for this. What the fuck? This movie has no idea of what it is doing, where it is doing it, what the surrounding world is. This movie is like an extremely focused microcosm of some characters that exist in this very larger world full of dumb cliches that this outer world has no like proper reaction to anything that's going on in this movie whatsoever.
Do you know why a cliche is a cliche?
Because it's good.
Because it's real.
Wow. Well,
I don't know about
I give this movie 7 lightning strikes, no thunder.
I give it 3 lightning strikes, no thunder.
No, give it 7.
No, I mean 3. Like they pull off some effects.
I want to give
however,
it 8 lightning strikes.
all of those effects have been done before. I feel like it's all just
so much fun.
sitting in some sort of stock effects folder, sitting in whoever the fuck made this movie, Universal. I felt like it was Sony the whole time. I felt like most of this movie was just rehashed sets from Spider-Man, but I was wrong. It was Universal, I think.
okay, well, a lot was said about this film. Maybe
too much.
Maybe we should talk
Not
about
enough.
where we can find you guys online.
You can find us at Extremist Movie Debate on Facebook. If you want to email us, you can do that at extremistmoviedebate@gmail.com, or you can go to our comment section and leave a comment, a concern, a question, anything you would like us to debate. Jeff will read it on air, and we will respond to it.
Unpaid intern
personally. Unpaid intern Jeff.
That Jeff.
Unpaid intern moderator Jeff will read it online, and you can find us on Twitter at Extremist Movie.
Yeah, I don't know. That's it.
Okay, well, thank you, and we will see you next time.